Hi, I'm Kathy with Dragonmount, and with me today, so lucky to spend some time with you, the one and only Sharon Gilham.
Hi.
So excited for you to be here and spend time with us. Last time we hung out in Prague with season 2 costumes, and now we're on stage with season 3.
Yep.
So exciting. So we're going to start with behind the scenes. So you've been able to share with the extremely passionate fans of the Wheel of Time on Instagram. I know it takes so much extra energy and time to make these videos for social media, but I know that they are so appreciated. Which costume pieces were you most excited to share, and which ones had the most intense reaction that you weren't expecting?
Ooh, good question. Well, I haven't shared all the videos that we made because Rob and I quickly made a few last year, or no, beginning of this year, which it does take time to put them together because I'm really not great in terms of technology. But
you're doing fantastic. It may take some effort or extra energy, but they're fantastic, so we appreciate it.
In terms of which costume I was most excited, oh God, it's hard to say because there were so many costumes. I think the eel fin was one of them because I was really excited and lucky to be asked by Nick Dudman to kind of work with him on with the makeup effects team. And I remember reading the script for that and just and it was quite, obviously it's quite far down the line in terms of the show. And I remember reading it and going, made of skin? I was just like, how am I going to do that? But in the end, I had my amazing team and everybody came together and helped out. So that was good because it was weird. It wasn't a dress, it wasn't a sort of normal costume in inverted commas, but I love all of it because Lanfear, there's always something new and fun and exciting to create with her costumes, and Maureen, there was a real journey of her character through that season, and wanting to make these iconic pieces like the breastplate for her in episode 8 that has all this meaning and significance, and Rand's jacket that he also wears at the end that has a real story going through it. But Tanchico costumes were so much fun, and just doing all the crowd, the decisions for some of those things were made very last minute because there's always so much to do on the Wheel of Time that you start off and you've got your head around, okay, episode 1, let alone, all those Aes Sedai, trying to create all these different characters and different looks within my kind of restrictions of the types of fabrics that we use and so on. That was already huge, plus all the repeats. Then episode 2 with more gays and the whole of Andor and the court coming in, I wanted that to be spectacular. And then, so there's just things rolling all the time. And then you just have to it's like getting on a train that's going faster and faster and faster. And you have to make creative decisions very, very fast. Yeah. And so with Tanchico, I had quite a few ideas about the look and the color palettes and so on. And so all of these fabrics were coming in and certain shapes and things were being created. But it wasn't right at the very last minute that I started using bowler hats and veils and things like that, like the bridegroom's wearing. And I remember being with Chloe, my assistant, and just going, I said, we're going to do this. And she went, okay. She wasn't, it was quite funny because she wasn't quite sure where we're going with it. But then once you hook onto an idea like that, and it's handed to the crowd team, they take it and make it into something so spectacular.
So fantastic.
And they were sending, because I got all the pictures on my phone as they were doing the fittings upstairs in my office, and I just kept bursting out with laughter at the these pictures of the crowd because they were so bonkers. And I didn't know if it was too much. I didn't know if it was just going to be completely mad. But in the end, when you put all of that madness together in a location like that location that was created by Andre, it just all makes sense. And, it's just builds a complete culture that you believe is a real place.
Yeah, it feels so authentic, partially because it feels so bonkers that it's so intense that, like, obviously this is on purpose.
Yeah.
They weren't people that just picked up stuff out of their own closet to bring it in. Like, it still feels curated, but in a really authentic way. And I think that's something with all of the work that you've done in creating the culture and like the silhouettes and the feel and the vibes and the energy. So like the Aiel, for example, they have, they all feel real, but also so different. I know in one of the interviews you discussed that you were concerned about having it all be beige, and like, how do you work with that? And so so I know you mentioned with the Tanchico crowd, you felt that authenticity with that reality. Did you feel that when it all came together with the Aiel too, that it might be too much and then it was fine, or?
Yeah, I know I didn't have that same feeling because it didn't feel quite as bonkers as Tanchico, but I was anxious that it was all going to be very bland, I guess, compared to the rest of the costumes, because obviously you've seen from my costumes that I love texture, and I love color, and I thought that the Aiel might just all be very samey, and I did have to. I'm going to talk about this a bit more tomorrow, but like I did have to make a difference in the looks of the clans so that they had their own identity. But then when you saw them en masse, this was Rafe's brief, is that they all look the same, they all blend into the landscape. So that was a challenge, but I think once I started getting fabrics in and textiles and things, and had made that decision about the Shaido being darker, and then we started to create the armor of the warriors, and that's then at that point things started to become a bit more clarified, and you could see the similarities and the differences at the same time of those groups. And then the Wise Ones, I always kind of was looking forward to the Wise Ones because they had all the jewelry and so on. And in a way, I kind of ran out of time, and also it's practicality is a thing that you always have to take into consideration when you're creating costumes for anybody, because they have to be able to move in them, and they have to, I knew we were going to be in the desert. It's going to be hot and uncomfortable and so on. So, there were little compromises, but in the end, I felt like I really loved the Aiel, and I loved what we did with it, and I loved pushing it, like with Savannah's costumes, because sometimes when you are pushed into a corner, you do become the most creative you can be, and that's a really interesting place to be. Sometimes with the Wheel of Time, it's like there's so many possibilities that you could be just like swimming in possibilities and never make a decision. So I learned quite early on in season 2 that I have to hone things down and give them their place and create a palette or create a look, so that they feel like you believe that place, but you're not going to confuse it with another place.
Yeah, no. And you've done just an incredible job. I know everyone is just obsessed with the costumes. What are some special touches or Easter eggs that Eagle Eye viewers have not yet noticed, or you haven't told anyone yet, that you want to point out for their next rewatch?
Oh dear. I did have a list actually of Easter eggs. I think I've probably spilled the beans on most of them, I'm afraid. I need to have a think
then what's
about
your favorite one?
I think it's a kind of tie between Moraine's armor and Rand's final costume, because I think that I guess I didn't really realize, well, I know I didn't, I haven't read the book, so I didn't realize the full power of those books until season 3, I don't think, and probably because season 2 I was so like manically trying to understand the whole thing. But in season 3 I sort of settled into it more, and I started to realize how profound it is and how huge the scope is and meaningful it is. And I think with Rand's jacket, that was a costume that I think it was also because of episode 4 and talking through working with Yosha on creating all those characters of his ancestors, that the whole Aiel universe and his story became so interesting and so important and so meaningful. And sometimes I think with men's costumes, I mean, this is an example, there are no men's costumes in this display. And it's easy to overlook that. It's easy to kind of not focus on them as much as you do the women's costumes.
Especially with something like this.
Exactly. Yeah. I really wanted Yosha and Ran to have something that felt really symbolic at the end of that of the season, because of the journey that Yosha's been on, the journey that Rand is on, and his constantly being pulled between his home and his future and so on. And it felt like that jacket, because it was hand woven, it was made by a human being. It wasn't, someone I know wove that fabric, and that made it really, really deeply meaningful and significant.
Especially at the end of season 3, learning that as of right now, but maybe in the future, there's no season 4. And so that almost a love letter to Rand and to the fans to see the story and feel it.
Yeah, exactly. And to know that we all went on that journey together.
Yeah. So you spoke a little bit about how you worked with Yosha for his character. And there are so many other incredible actors in the show. Which of them outside of Yosha in that particular scene, episode, had the most input and thought in their costume? And how often did Donal Finn ask for a crop top? That was a question that our Dragonmount audience asked.
Okay, so answering the second question first. Yes. Never. But the thing is that Donal is they're all fantastic actors. Donal is just the most kind of warm, gorgeous human being. I'm not saying he is more than others, but he just would go with anything. He would absolutely embrace. And he was in that character, and it wasn't easy for him, I guess, to take over from another actor in a part that's so meaningful and important to the fans especially. But he didn't ask, but he also didn't complain. Although I think he did actually prefer the tops that were very low cut and the big baggy trousers.
Okay, so who else had some incredible input into their costume or have some thoughts on what their character would work with?
I think all of them. I mean, all of the actors. I am a very collaborative costume designer, so I would never just give an actor a costume and say, you're wearing this. I would always give the reasons behind it, and especially if there's a story behind the costume of some kind, I would always tell them that, because it helps them to create their characters. I mean, everybody has an input. I would say Rosamund is very precise, because she is, first of all, she loves clothes, she loves the way she looks and wants to present herself. But more importantly than that, she is really, really invested in the character of Maureen and in the books and in the story. And so she would always have an opinion. And if Rosamund does this thing where she folds her arms, and if you watch her, she doesn't mean it she's not in a negative way, but she does it when she's thinking. And there were several times where I would be like, so you're going to be wearing this. This is the idea behind this costume, and all the fabrics with the sort of textures of the earth on them, the blue and browny fabrics. And she would always fold her arms, and I felt like I was in an exam or something, and I was just going to make a mistake, because she's really super intelligent and she knows her stuff. But so she was a great person to work with, because she really does collaborate. And that's fantastic that, also that you want an actor who has a dialogue with you about something. And it's not always going to be the first thing that you present that they like. It's about us working together. Who else? I mean, no, everybody, all of them, everybody brings something to the table, and they all have something to say. And it's most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, it's about the character, not about, I think my bum looks big in this.
Of course. Yeah. Well, and all of the actors seem to be so passionate and care so much about their character too. So it makes sense that they want the costume to be right, so that they can move the way that they want to move.
Exactly.
And that they can do what they need to be able to do. So you couldn't necessarily sword fight in this.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you choose your costumes and you choose your moments. Like Lord Turak's costume with that big shoulder piece. There's no way he could have moved anywhere with that on, but it was meant to be ceremonial, you know, and when it's ceremonial, you sit there and you bear it because you want to make that impact and have that impact.
Yeah, and have that moment. And boy, howdy, did it have that moment. And talk about just like so many impressive, all of this. So many impressive? Yeah. So much that is so impressive. So over the past 2 seasons of the show, there's been such a wide range of characters and cultures that have been explored. And we talked a little bit about this, but I want to know kind of, where do you begin? Because I feel like it could be so overwhelming. Do you think, okay, this is going to be the feel of the culture, and then you start working on individual pieces? Or do you say, oh, I'm designing the detective agency's core costumes in Tanchico, and then you're going to build the ideas around that and how the veils work? Or like, how do you even, the massive worlds that you're looking at and this huge story, how do you begin?
Well, I always begin with the books and the information in the books. So it's a lot of research. And I don't do a single character first. I create the world first. Especially, like I was saying, it's important to have, to be able to distinguish these different nations from each other, because there's a lot going on, especially from season 2 onwards. It was a lot busier. And so I knew that I had to make a color palette in order to simplify things for the audience, but also for myself. So I would do, it's like all the information from the books via Sarah Nakamura. So I'd have that, which is rich in itself. And then there would be, you know, the mix of cultures that each of those nations is. And so I would start getting reference from there. And then I would choose a color palette as part of that process. And so once I've got like a kind of series of rules for each nation or each group, then I'd start moving into the characters. Then I'd start moving into, well, where does this person sit in the hierarchy? You know, or what is it that this person is going to do or say that's meaningful, that could have an influence on the costume? But it definitely starts that way. So broad, and then you get smaller and smaller and more into the detail. And then the character is also part of it. So if the character has something to say, you know, that's not necessarily connected to the culture, but you want to put that in as well, then you try to add that as well, depending on how much time you have. But I
sometimes not as much as you would like, and yet
exactly. But then, you know, that's again, that's part of it, and you have to just sort of keep going on a job this fast. You know, you make decisions and then you have to move on. And sometimes, and I know you were going to ask me, well, can you give me an example of this? Well, I can't. But there are times when you're like, oh, I wish I'd done that on that costume, but I just didn't have time. So you sort of save the idea for somebody in the future. And sometimes it happens like that something just comes back to you, like the porcupine spines, I guess. And in Savannah's costume is those porcupine spines were around for a long time, and I didn't use them, and I kept thinking, oh, shall I just get rid of that thing? But then they just came at the right time. They were there waiting.
Yeah. Incredible. Okay, one last question. So in the live stream for WoTCon that you just did, as we're recording this now, you mentioned an expo and potentially the costumes being displayed somewhere. How can we as an audience support that? Who can we write to? As you know, with SaveWot.com, we're very good at writing letters. So who can we reach out and help support that effort?
Well, there are some names of people at Sony who I am talking to. I've just sent an email today with a proposal, so I don't want to bombard them yet.
Well, when you're ready for it,
yes, I'll let you know exactly, because it is important to know that there is that much support. And you know, I would love it. I would love to do an exhibition that shows the costumes from the whole show in their family groups or in their cultural groups, or in, you know, so there'd be a white tower thing with the different amarillins, you know, there would be, and all the Aes Sedai and the shawls and everything, and then, you know, a Shanshan section and so on. And I think it would be a fantastic way just to showcase everything and for people to be able to see it, and it could be filmed and it could be distributed like that as well, people who couldn't make it to see it in real life. So we'll see, but I'll definitely let you know.
Amazing. Well, and real quick, the shawls, can we get patterns for the shawls so we can make our own?
Yeah. I mean, that's something else I'm really interested in doing. There's so many things. Like people keep talking to me about a book, and I would love to do that and have patterns in the book that people could use.
Yes, please.
Because, you know, the shawls are a thing that's actually very simple. It's the thing that makes them amazing is the fringing, which was made in India, which is incredibly heavy but beautiful. But yes, absolutely. Like, I'm really more than willing to be able to spread the love and the information as much as possible.
Well, thank you so much for taking so much time with us. We adore everything that you've ever done and you as a person. And thank you for sharing that passion with us, because I know we can feel it. Everything that you post is just so much love and passion, especially for the collaborators that work with.
Absolutely. Like, I couldn't do it without my amazing team.
Yeah. Yay.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and drop a comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts on this, especially. A huge thank you to our show sponsor, Tor Books, and to our incredible Patreon supporters. Your support means everything to us. Want even more Wheel of Time content and behind-the-scenes exclusives? We've revamped our Patreon, so go check it out and consider joining the community. Don't forget to sign the petition at SaveWhat.com and follow Dragonmount on social media for all of the latest news and updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills. I'm Kitty. Bye!